Hey everyone, with the PTR testing for Sunwell Plateau finally coming to an end, this means that Phase 5, the final phase of Classic TBC, is right around the corner. And with it, we will get Sunwell, Magister's Terrace, the Isle of Quel'Danas, and a bunch of content that will keep us busy till the release of Wrath of the Lich King. So I figured now is the perfect time to go over a checklist of the things you need to prepare for and have ready ahead of Phase 5's release. And you'll need to be aware of everything we're gonna be talking about here to take full advantage of the upcoming patch and be one step ahead of everyone else. So without further ado, here's 6 things you need to do as soon as possible before Phase 5. Let's get into it. First and foremost, and probably most importantly, you need to farm and mainly save as many badges of justice as you can. With the release of Phase 5, we're getting the Isle of Quel'Danas, a brand new daily hub which will unlock over time as more and more dailies are completed on the server. Depending on how populated your server is, it may take anywhere from a few days to a week or two to unlock the entirety of the isle. But once your server does that, you'll unlock 2 important vendors. The first one is the blacksmith Hothra. This NPC will sell a ton of super strong gear to help you and your guild in your progression on Sunwell, or just to help you gear your main or alts faster. A lot of this is better than what you can get in Black Temple or Hyjal, so you'll want to have some badges saved in case something here is better than what you currently have. But the second NPC, and the one that will be relevant until the release of Wrath, is the Jewel Crafter Shani. This NPC sells all the raw epic gems for just 15 badges of justice per gem. If you've been playing through Phase 3 and 4, you know how insanely expensive some of these gems can be, especially the red ones. This NPC will single-handedly bring those prices down by a huge amount. So yeah, be it to buy some of the new badge gear or to stock up on epic gems, you'll want to have as many badges of justice going into Phase 5 as you possibly can. If you want to quickly stock up on these, my recommendation is to do Karazhan every week and Zulaman every 3 days. Zulaman gives 13 badges per run and Kara gives a whopping 26 badges. Just doing that every week should net you enough badges in preparation for Phase 5. But keep in mind that once Phase 5 drops, all the bosses in Black Temple, Hyjal, and in Sunwell itself will also drop badges. So if you're doing these raids every week with your guild, you should have more than enough badges to cover all the gems you'll ever need. Still, farming some in advance is definitely a good idea to buy the new gear or the epic gems while they're still high in price. Okay, next up, you may need to drop your professions now and choose something more appropriate for Phase 5. The reason for this is that the trash inside Sunwell drops a bunch of recipes for different professions. But unlike Phase 2 and Phase 3, where those crafted items quickly got replaced by actual raid gear, a lot of those crafted pieces that drop from Sunwell are actually best in slot until Wrath of the Lich King releases. One example for this is the Hardcorium Choker from Jewel Crafting. This neck piece is basically BIS for all melee DPS and hunters, and most of us hunters, warriors, and rogues are probably not Jewel Crafters already. Now of course, you could just go for the next best option and just leave it there, and I feel like that's what most people will do. But if you want to push big numbers, it is something you may want to consider. The next example for this, which is less problematic, is Hardcorium Battle Plate. This is a binom pickup plate chest and is best in slot for warriors and red paladins. That being said, if you play Wrath, Fury, or Arms, you're probably already a blacksmith most likely. But if you're not, that's something else to consider. And I'm sure there's way more examples like that, so if you know something relevant like this, please drop it in the comments. But the point is, you may need to start leveling those professions sooner rather than later. If a lot of people decide to go jewel crafting for the neck or blacksmithing for the chestplate, this means that the reagents to level those professions will also go up in price accordingly, and it will be harder for you to level them as a result. Starting now, however, ahead of time will make that process less pricey, so you need to consider it. Next up, here's an item that you really need to have before setting foot in Sunwell Plateau: Medallion of the Alliance / of the Horde. And the reason for this is because of the fight Eredar twins. There's one ability on this fight that is very likely to kill you and thus render you useless for the rest of the fight, and that's the Conflagration. Every 30 seconds, Alithess casts this ability on a random player of the raid, and if you get targeted by this, not only do you have less than a second to react and move away from everyone else, but you'll also need to free yourself using a Medallion of the Alliance and then heal yourself using a Hellstone to to survive. Otherwise, you're quite likely to die. Here's an example of me doing the former but not the latter and still dying. Now, it is possible to survive this if you have a healer or two focus target you for the duration of the stun, but your healers probably want to focus on healing the tanks or the raid instead. So you'll be doing yourself and everyone else a huge service by having this trinket, and that's why you need to farm it ahead of Sunwell's release. Thankfully, this trinket is really easy to obtain, especially if you farm it during a battleground week. It took me just a couple hours of farming AV to get mine back in phase 2, and it should be just as easy now. Over time, as your guild gets used to this fight and you and the others just naturally get more gear, you'll probably be able to skip using this. But for the first few weeks, and especially on progression, this trinket is definitely gonna be a huge lifesaver. Speaking of PvP, here's something we have no confirmation of as of now, but it's likely to happen. You probably want to get a full set of tier 6 tokens and keep them in your bank. Midway through phase 2, closer to the end of it I believe, Blizzard decided to make a change to the game that was not supposed to be brought in until phase 5. They made it so that you can obtain season 1 and season 2 PvP gear in exchange for tier 4 and tier 5 set tokens. Their reasoning for doing this was to encourage arena and PvP and to make it easier for people to step into it. As I said, season gear for tokens was originally added on a vendor in the Isle of Quel'Danas in patch 2.4 in original TBC, and it was only for season 1 and season 2 gear. Currently on the PTR, unfortunately that vendor is not yet available as the armory is not in control of the Shattered Sun offensive. People need to do more dailies, and even if that was the case, I don't think season 3 gear would be on it. Still, I do believe Blizzard is likely to make season 3 gear available for tier 6 tokens midway through phase 4, for the same reasons as they did in phase 2, to encourage arena and make it easier for players to get into it. Which means that you probably want to ask your guild for a full set of tier tokens if no one else needs them, and just save them in case this change makes it to the game. Next up, speaking of Sunwell, obviously a big important thing to prepare for phase 5 is to read, watch, and learn all the strategies for the 6 bosses in Sunwell ahead of time. Your guild is probably gonna make this mandatory for you, and even if you usually just pug, you'll definitely want to know this stuff in advance before setting foot in here and wiping people because you didn't know something. As usual, we'll be doing a raid guide for all of Sunwell Plateau, and we'll be going in-depth detail for every boss, just like we did for Black Temple and Hyjal and Zulaman after that, so make sure to subscribe to not miss that. Finally, this is not just something you want to do before phase 5, but also during phase 5, and that's to farm gold, a lot of gold. Be it by doing GDKPs, farming herbs and ores, crafting items, or just doing dailies, which we'll get to in a second, you'll need a ton of gold, not just for phase 5, but also for Wrath of the Lich King. Obviously, phase 5 introduces all the new recipes for crafted gear. Each one of the reagents for those items will go up in price the closer we get to phase 5, so you may need to invest in them in advance. Another item you need to invest into is Void Crystals. Currently, Void Crystals are very cheap, but come phase 5 they will likely go up in price, whilst large Brilliant Shards will go down in price. That's because there's a new recipe from the Reputation that allows you to craft 3 large Brilliant Shards for just 1 Void Crystal. Obviously, we talked about gems already. Definitely don't buy overpriced gems now. Wait for the Isle of Quel'Danas to drop and buy them yourself from the vendor, or just wait for them to go down in price if you don't want to spend or farm badges. And speaking of Quel'Danas, it's no secret that this daily hub will be a huge way to farm gold. Each one of those dailies gives anywhere from 10 to 18 gold, and there's a whopping 15 dailies to do every day. So that's a lot of gold to be made, and this will inevitably create a huge inflation ahead of Wrath of the Lich King, which is why I suggest for you to farm as much gold as you possibly can. We talked about this in a previous video, which you can check if you want more details, but there's a lot of gold sinks in Wrath that you need to be ready for. From your dual spec costing 1k gold for each one of your characters, to the Dalaran rings which will set you off 8k gold, to the traveling Tundra Mammoth costing a whopping 16,000 gold. You'll need a lot of gold told at the start of Rat, that I recommend you start farming for right as Phase 5 drops. And that's pretty much everything there is to know to prepare for Phase 5. There's probably some stuff that I forgot about, so feel free to drop it in the comments if you can think of anything to help out your fellow Classic WoW players. But one thing is for sure, Phase 5 will be a lot of fun. Sunwell will be a very challenging raid for most guilds, and it will provide you with hours of wipes and hair pulling, which is probably the first time we can say that for a Classic raid. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to give it a like and subscribe to the Classic WoW Curios channel for more content like this. My name is Numidia, and I will see you guys in the next one very soon. Bye for now.